It was the summer when Jerry Iman, an astronomer working with the SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, project, first discovered the signal. Late one evening, while scanning data from the Big E radio telescope in Ohio, Jerry was processing routine signals when a strange burst of radio waves emerged from deep space. The signal was so powerful and unique that Jerry thought it was a mistake. But after rechecking the data, he realized that it was no glitch, it was something far more significant. The signal lasted some seconds, and was intense enough to be labeled as the "wow" signal. Jerry's heart raced with excitement. For a moment he thought he might have stumbled upon the most significant discovery of the century, proof of extraterrestrial life. But, as soon as the excitement passed, doubt crept in. Could it really be from aliens? Or was it just a natural anomaly? The next few days were filled with uncertainty, as Jerry struggled to understand what he had found. Yet deep down he knew that if this was genuine, it could change everything. "We have to follow this," he muttered to himself as he started preparing the next set of observations. He didn't know it yet, but this signal would ignite a chain of events that would challenge everything he believed about the universe. Jerry's discovery shook him to his core, but he couldn't yet share it with anyone. The implications were too massive, too life-altering. His colleague, Dr. Rachel Carter, was the first person he considered telling, but she was a rational thinker, too logical to accept such an extraordinary idea without proof. So, Jerry decided to continue working alone. For days he rechecked the data, ensuring there were no errors, no mistakes. The signal remained clear, unmistakable. Yet, doubt gnawed at him. What if he was just imagining things? What if this was a mistake, a misinterpretation of the data? But, deep inside, Jerry knew this was no ordinary signal, it was something far more profound. He needed to find more evidence, more data that could confirm his theory. But that meant continuing his search in secrecy, without the support of his colleagues. As the days turned to weeks, Jerry became more consumed by the mystery. He barely slept, his mind constantly racing, trying to connect the dots. The signal was unlike anything he had ever encountered, and it felt like it was calling to him, pulling him deeper into the unknown. But with each passing day, the question lingered. Was this proof of extraterrestrial life, or just an unexplainable anomaly? Days turned into weeks, and Jerry found himself sinking deeper into his obsession with the wow signal. His colleagues, especially Dr. Rachel Carter, had started to notice his increasing isolation. They tried to reach out, but Jerry was consumed by the mystery. He spent hours alone in the observatory, poring over the data, trying to understand the signal's origins. His mind raced with questions. Why did it only last some seconds? Why was it so powerful and so precise? Was it a natural phenomenon, or something else entirely? One afternoon, Rachel approached Jerry in the control room. "You've got to take a break, Jerry. You're running yourself ragged," she said, her tone a mix of concern and frustration. Jerry turned to her, his eyes wide with the intensity of his findings. "Rachel, this is bigger than anything we've ever imagined. We've got to keep going. What if this is proof that we're not alone?" But Rachel, although intrigued, couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. "I understand, but you're not thinking clearly. If you keep pushing this way, you're going to miss something important." Despite her warning, Jerry refused to slow down. As the nights wore on, the signal became his only focus, the driving force in his life. Rachel couldn't help but wonder if Jerry's obsession would ultimately cost him more than just his career. Rachel's concerns grew with each passing day. As Jerry's obsession deepened, his behavior became more erratic. He started isolating himself, pulling away from his colleagues, and even dismissing their questions about his progress. One evening, Rachel found Jerry sitting in front of a massive stack of data, scribbling notes frantically. His eyes were bloodshot, his hands shaking slightly as he wrote. "Jerry, you've got to stop. This isn't healthy. You're letting this take over your life," she said, her voice soft but firm. Jerry looked up at her, his eyes wide with excitement. "Rachel, you don't get it. This signal, it's something incredible. I'm so close I can feel it." But Rachel saw the desperation in his eyes, and it sent a chill through her. "This could be dangerous, Jerry. If you keep going like this, you might be opening a door that you can't close." Jerry's response was a quiet, determined nod. "I don't care. This is what I've been waiting for my entire life." Rachel left the room, her heart heavy with the knowledge that she couldn't stop him. She feared that Jerry's pursuit of the truth would lead him into a world of danger from which there would be no return. As Jerry's obsession with the wow signal grew, the academic community started to take notice. His reports were dismissed as speculative and unproven by some, but others were intrigued by the possibility that the signal could be extraterrestrial in origin. One night, Jerry received a call from a government official, Charles Wood, who requested a private meeting. Jerry agreed, intrigued, but also wary. When they met, Charles seemed calm and collected, his demeanor almost too perfect. "Dr. Iman," Charles said, offering a handshake, "I've been following your work. There's something about this signal that has the potential to change everything." Jerry listened intently, trying to gauge Charles' true intentions. "What do you mean?" he asked cautiously. Charles smiled, but there was a coldness in his eyes. "Let's just say that we have a vested interest in this. We believe you might be on the verge of something very significant." Jerry's curiosity piqued, but a sense of unease lingered. "What are you really after?" he asked. Before he could ask more questions, Charles handed Jerry a file containing government data about the signal. "We'll be in touch," he said before leaving. Jerry was left alone, staring at the file. Something didn't feel right, but his instincts told him that the truth was closer than ever. Jerry's suspicions grew as the days went by. His interactions with Charles Wood had become increasingly unsettling, and the hidden messages within the documents seemed to point toward something far beyond extraterrestrial communication. Jerry reached out to Rachel, hoping that she might be able to shed some light on the pattern he had discovered. As she examined the data, Rachel's face grew pale. "This isn't just a signal," she said, her voice trembling. "These numbers, they match up with a classified project from decades ago. A project involving advanced technology and unknown sources." Rachel paused, her eyes narrowing. "But this isn't just about alien contact. Someone is using this information for their own gain, and they've been hiding it from the public for years." Jerry felt a chill run down his spine. The realization hit him like a freight train. The wow signal was not just a sign of alien life. It was a key to something much darker, something that could change everything he knew about the world. As the weight of the discovery settled over him, Jerry knew he had to keep going, but he also knew the consequences of doing so could be catastrophic. Jerry and Rachel managed to track down more information. They uncovered a report suggesting that the government had been aware of the wow signal long before Jerry's discovery, but had chosen to keep it secret, fearing the implications of its true nature. The more Jerry dug, the more he realized that the signal was connected to something far bigger than extraterrestrial life. It was tied to advanced technology that some believed could change the balance of power in the world. Jerry's mind raced as he pieced together the fragments of information. "This isn't just about aliens, Rachel," he said, his voice low with concern. "This is about technology, something far more dangerous." Rachel's face went pale. "If that's true, then someone has been hiding this for a long time. And if they've been hiding it, it means they're willing to go to great lengths to keep it that way." The weight of the situation hit Jerry like a brick wall. He knew they couldn't stop now, but the more they uncovered, the more dangerous it became. They were no longer just seeking answers about the signal, they were uncovering a dark conspiracy that threatened everything they believed. Rachel's warning echoed in Jerry's mind, but his obsession only deepened. The next few days were spent feverishly researching, piecing together the puzzle. As Jerry delved deeper into the project Rachel had mentioned, he uncovered something disturbing. A report suggested that the government had been aware of the wow signal long before Jerry's discovery, but had chosen to keep it secret, fearing the implications of its true nature. The more Jerry uncovered, the more he realized that this wasn't just about alien communication. It was about advanced technology that had the potential to change the world, and certain people had been hiding it for decades. But the deeper Jerry went, the more dangerous his situation became. Strange figures began following him, and his phone line was tapped. It became clear that someone, or something, didn't want him getting too close to the truth. Despite the danger, Jerry couldn't stop himself. He was addicted to the mystery, driven by the belief that uncovering the truth would bring him the closure he desperately sought. But the question lingered: was he uncovering a secret meant to protect humanity, or was he about to expose something that would change the world forever? One night, Jerry received an unexpected visitor. A man wearing a dark suit and an unassuming demeanor knocked on his door. The man introduced himself as Detective Samuel Green and claimed to have information about the government's involvement with the WOW signal. "You've been digging into things that are way above your pay grade, Dr. Eamon," Green said in a calm, measured tone. "You've uncovered something that the people in power would rather keep hidden." Jerry listened intently, his heart racing. "What do you know about the signal?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Green leaned in closer, his eyes narrowing. "It's not just a signal. It's a key, Dr. Eamon. A key to technology that could change everything, if it falls into the wrong hands." The words sent a shiver down Jerry's spine. Before he could ask more questions, Green stood up and left, leaving Jerry with more questions than answers. Was Green a friend, or was he just another player in the game of secrets? The conversation with Detective Green left Jerry feeling unsettled, but it also fueled his determination. He knew he couldn't back down now. The pieces of the puzzle were finally coming together, but the picture was darker and more complex than he had ever imagined. Rachel was reluctant to continue, warning Jerry of the dangers, but she reluctantly agreed to help him track down more information. The deeper they went, the more they realized that the WOW signal was not just a random anomaly. It was part of a much larger conspiracy, one that stretched back decades and involved some of the most powerful people in the world. "We have to be careful, Jerry," Rachel warned as they reviewed their findings. "We're dealing with forces that we don't fully understand." Jerry nodded, but his resolve was unwavering. He had come too far to stop now. They had uncovered the tip of the iceberg, and he was determined to expose the truth, no matter the cost. The deeper they dug, the more perilous their investigation became. The government files they had unearthed led them to a remote, highly classified military facility that held crucial information about the WOW signal. Shell. But getting there would be dangerous. Jerry knew they couldn't just walk into a place like that without raising alarms. "We have to be smart about this," he said, as they huddled over a map of the facility. "If we get caught, everything is over." Rachel nodded, looking at Jerry with concern. "This isn't a game, Jerry. We're talking about government secrets here. If we get caught, they'll make us disappear." Jerry took a deep breath, trying to shake off his growing anxiety. "We have no choice. We need this data if we're going to understand what's really going on." The plan was set. They would infiltrate the facility under the cover of darkness, find the data, and leave without being seen. But even as Jerry felt the adrenaline rush, he knew that their lives could change forever the moment they stepped onto the property. Under the cover of night, they made their way toward the facility, moving cautiously and staying out of sight. The tension was palpable as they navigated through the thick forests surrounding the base. The air was still, and the only sound was the crunch of leaves beneath their feet. Jerry's heart raced with each step. "We're almost there," he whispered, barely audible over the rustling of the trees. Rachel stayed close, her eyes scanning the dark landscape. The feeling of unease was growing, but they had no choice but to continue. They had come too far to turn back now. "Remember, in and out. We get the data, and we leave." "No hesitation," Rachel whispered back. The facility loomed ahead, its lights faint in the distance. Every step felt like it could be their last, but the only thing that mattered now was the information they needed to uncover the truth. They reached the edge of the facility's perimeter, the towering fences and barbed wire stretching high above them. Jerry pulled out a set of tools, his hands shaking slightly as he worked to disable the security system. Every sound felt amplified in the dead of night, and they both knew that even the slightest mistake could alert the guards. "I think I can get us in," Jerry said, his voice low, focused. Rachel kept watch, her eyes darting to every movement. Hurry," she urged, her voice filled with urgency. As Jerry worked to unlock the gate, Rachel took a step back, her hand instinctively resting on the small pistol she had hidden in her jacket. The sound of the lock disengaging was almost too loud, but Jerry quickly pushed the gate open. "Let's go," he whispered, leading the way. They slipped inside, hearts pounding, aware of the dangers that lay ahead. The building they sought was just up ahead, but so were the unknown risks. The door creaked as it opened, revealing a dimly lit hallway filled with high-tech equipment and secure access points. They crept inside, staying close to the walls, knowing that any wrong move could trigger an alarm. The air inside was cool, the faint hum of machinery filling the silence. "We need to get to the data vault," Jerry whispered, his voice tense. Rachel nodded, but her eyes were on the security cameras that dotted the hall. "We can't afford to be caught on those," she warned. Jerry was already moving forward, and Rachel followed closely behind. The deeper they went into the facility, the more it felt like they were walking through a maze, each turn potentially leading to disaster. The data vault was just ahead, and Jerry could feel the weight of their mission pressing down on him. They had come this far, and failure wasn't an option. They finally reached the data vault, a secure room with a high-tech lock and an additional security checkpoint. Jerry stepped forward, his hands shaking slightly as he worked to crack the code. "This is it," he whispered, his voice filled with determination. Rachel stood guard, her eyes scanning the hallway for any signs of movement. The seconds felt like minutes, and the tension was unbearable. Finally, with a soft click, the door to the vault opened. Inside, rows of servers and files were neatly organized. Jerry stepped in first, quickly locating the file they needed. As he pulled it from the shelf, Rachel's voice cut through the silence. "We've got company," she said, her voice tense. Jerry's heart skipped a beat. They weren't alone anymore. The sound of approaching footsteps sent a wave of panic through Jerry and Rachel. They had just acquired the file they needed, but they weren't safe yet. Jerry's heart pounded as he looked around the room, searching for a quick exit. "We need to go now," Rachel hissed, grabbing his arm. They darted toward the back of the room, hoping to find a hidden door or passage. The footsteps grew louder, echoing through the narrow hallway. Jerry quickly stuffed the file into his bag, his mind racing for a plan. They couldn't afford to be caught now. "There's a service exit behind that door," Jerry whispered, pointing to a small unmarked door at the far end of the room. Rachel nodded, signaling for him to lead the way. They moved quickly but cautiously, their every step echoing in the cold, sterile space. Their time was running out, and the danger was closing in fast. The pursuit was inevitable. If they didn't escape now, everything they had worked for would be lost. They reached the service exit just as the door to the vault burst open. Jerry's hand fumbled for the door handle, heart racing. Come on," he muttered under his breath, pulling the door open just as a guard's voice echoed from the hallway. The exit led them to a narrow, poorly lit corridor that wound its way through the facility. They didn't have much time before the alarms were triggered. "This way," Rachel whispered, pulling Jerry down the corridor. They turned a corner, and Jerry caught a glimpse of a security camera overhead. "We're too exposed," he muttered. Rachel scanned the area quickly. "There's a maintenance tunnel up ahead," she said. "We can lose them in there." They sprinted towards the tunnel entrance, hoping they weren't too late. Jerry's pulse raced with every step. Their escape depended on the next few moments. If they could reach the tunnel without being spotted, they might have a chance. But every corner felt like a trap, and the sense of urgency made it feel like the walls were closing in. Inside the maintenance tunnel, the air was musty and stale. The faint hum of machinery echoed in the distance, but for now, it was quiet. Jerry and Rachel slowed their pace, taking shallow breaths as they tried to regain their composure. They had managed to escape the immediate danger, but the mission wasn't over. They still had to get out of the facility and figure out what to do with the file they had taken. "Do you think they'll follow us down here?" Rachel asked, her voice low. "They're probably already looking for us," Jerry replied, his eyes scanning the dark tunnel ahead. "But we have the advantage now. We can slip out through the maintenance exit on the other side of the facility. Rachel nodded, but a sense of unease lingered. They had made it this far, but they both knew the stakes were higher than ever. The information they had just stolen could change the world, but it also put their lives in immediate danger. We can't let them get their hands on this, Jerry said, his voice firm with resolve. Not after everything we've uncovered. After what felt like an eternity, they finally reached the far end of the tunnel. Jerry peeked out from behind a corner, scanning the area. They were close to the exit, but they could still be spotted. Rachel pulled him back just in time, and they waited in silence, listening for any sounds of movement. Minutes passed, and the facility seemed eerily quiet. "It's clear," Jerry whispered. They slipped out of the tunnel and into a small maintenance yard behind the building. There was a truck parked nearby, abandoned perhaps. It was their best shot. They approached cautiously, Jerry checking the surroundings as Rachel slid into the driver's seat. "Let's get out of here," she said, her voice tight. Jerry climbed into the passenger seat, and as Rachel started the engine, they drove off, the sound of tires crunching on gravel, the only noise between them. The facility disappeared behind them, but Jerry knew it wasn't over. They were being hunted, and time was running out. They drove for hours, heading away from the facility and toward safety. Jerry sat in silence, his mind racing. The file they had stolen contained information far more dangerous than he had ever anticipated. He could feel the weight of it pressing down on him, the knowledge that the truth was finally within reach. But it was a truth that could destroy everything. "We're not safe yet," Rachel said, breaking the silence. "They'll be coming after us soon. We have to figure out what to do with the information we've got." Jerry nodded, but a part of him knew that there was no turning back. "We need to go public," he said, his voice unwavering. "This is too big. People need to know the truth." Rachel looked at him, her eyes full of uncertainty. "And if they come after us? If they silence us before we can expose everything?" Jerry met her gaze. "Then we fight. We have to make sure this doesn't stay buried." The car sped down the empty highway, the lights of the city glowing in the distance. Jerry's resolve was stronger than ever. They were in this together, and they wouldn't stop until the truth was out. After narrowly escaping the facility, Jerry and Rachel took refuge in a safe house, trying to make sense of everything they had learned. The data they had stolen from the facility revealed disturbing truths about the government's knowledge of the WOW signal and its ties to advanced, possibly alien technology. The deeper they dug, the more dangerous their situation became. Jerry, though, was resolute. "We have to go public with this," he said. "It's too important to keep hidden." Rachel, though uneasy, knew he was right. "But we're already being hunted. If we expose this, they'll come after us." Jerry looked at her, his voice firm. "We can't let them control the truth. We have to fight for it." The decision was made. They would leak the information, but they knew the risks. As they prepared their plan, they realized that they couldn't trust anyone but themselves. Every step they took brought them closer to exposure. "We can't back down now," Jerry said as they encrypted the files. "The truth has to come out." Rachel nodded, but couldn't shake the feeling of danger closing in. "Let's make sure we're ready. This could get ugly." With everything in place, they set their plan into motion, knowing there was no turning back. As the data was sent to multiple news outlets, Jerry and Rachel braced themselves for the fallout. Almost immediately, they were contacted by an anonymous informant who claimed to have more information. "You've only scratched the surface," the voice on the phone said cryptically. "They're not just hiding the signal, they're hiding the entire project." Jerry's heart raced. "We need to know more." But before he could get another word in, the line went dead. It was clear that the deeper they went, the more they would uncover, but the stakes had just been raised. The world's reaction was immediate. News stations broadcasted the story, and soon there were debates, theories, and widespread speculation. But Jerry and Rachel quickly realized that the government was moving fast to discredit them. They were labeled as hoaxes, their credibility attacked. "They're going to smear us," Rachel said, her voice filled with frustration. They'll do whatever it takes to stop us. Jerry, however, wasn't swayed. Let them try. The truth is out there now. People won't be able to ignore it. The battle for the truth had only just begun, but Jerry was ready to face whatever came next. With the world now aware of the wow signal, Jerry and Rachel knew the consequences of their actions would follow them everywhere. They could feel the walls closing in as they remained on the run, but they were determined to expose the full truth. "We've started something we can't undo," Jerry said as they moved again, heading for another safe location. "And we can't stop now, not until the world knows the truth about what's really out there." Rachel looked at him, her face resolute. "Then let's finish this, no matter what it costs." As Jerry and Rachel continued to flee, the pressure mounted. The government had launched a full-scale investigation into the leaked data. News outlets were now split. Some defended their findings, while others ridiculed them. Jerry felt the heat closing in. "We can't keep running forever," he said. "We need to confront this head-on." Rachel was wary. "They'll stop at nothing to silence us." But Jerry's resolve was unwavering. "The truth is out there. We can't let them control it." The time for hiding was over. They needed a plan to expose everything once and for all. They devised a plan to infiltrate a government facility that housed the most sensitive data about the project. "This is our last chance," Jerry said as they prepared. "Once we get in, we'll have the final piece of the puzzle." Rachel, though hesitant, understood the stakes. "If we get caught—" "We won't," Jerry interrupted. With stealth and precision, they moved under the cover of darkness, determined to get the information that could end the conspiracy once and for all. Inside the facility, the tension was unbearable. Jerry and Rachel moved swiftly through the corridors, bypassing security checkpoints. The air felt thick with danger. "We're almost there," Jerry whispered. They reached the central data vault, and Jerry quickly accessed the system. As they downloaded the final documents, an alarm blared. "We've been compromised," Rachel said, panic creeping into her voice. Jerry grabbed the data and led the way out. They had no time to lose. The facility's alarms were deafening, and Jerry and Rachel barely made it out before security flooded the area. They sprinted through the hallways, the sound of their footsteps echoing through the facility. "We have to get out now," Rachel shouted. They reached the exit, only to find guards blocking their way. "This is it," Jerry said, his voice firm. They fought their way through, using every skill they had learned in the past few weeks. With one final push, they escaped into the night. With the final documents in their possession, they returned to their safe house. But they knew the battle was far from over. "This is it. We have everything we need," Jerry said. Rachel looked at him, her eyes weary but resolute. "Now we have to make sure the world knows." They were ready to risk everything to get the truth out. "There's no turning back now," Rachel said. They had the data, but they also knew the government would stop at nothing to keep it buried. The world was changing, and Jerry and Rachel knew they couldn't back down. The leaked documents had made their way into the hands of journalists, and public opinion was divided. "It's now or never," Jerry said, staring at the phone screen as media outlets began to report on the findings. Rachel nodded, her face tense. "If we expose this, there's no turning back. They'll come after us with everything they've got." But Jerry's determination was unshaken. "Let them come. The truth is out now." As the story broke worldwide, Jerry and Rachel's faces appeared on every news station. The government launched a counter-narrative, branding them as conspiracy theorists. "We're being painted as the enemy," Rachel said, frustration evident in her voice. Jerry's eyes burned with anger. "They can lie all they want, but the truth won't go away." The pressure of being hunted was mounting, but they had no choice. "We fight, or we lose everything." The more they pushed, the more their enemies closed in. Rachel received a cryptic warning: "Stop, or you'll both pay the price." Despite the danger, they pressed on, determined to expose the full truth. "This is bigger than us," Jerry said. "We can't let them silence us now." As they prepared to release the full scope of the files, Jerry knew that exposing the complete truth would change everything, but it also meant putting their lives on the line. In a last-ditch effort to ensure the world saw the full scope of the conspiracy, Jerry and Rachel made one final move. They contacted the most influential journalists, arranging to meet in a safe, undisclosed location. "This is it," Rachel said, taking a deep breath. "We can't trust anyone else." Jerry nodded, his face grim. "It's all on us now. We either succeed or we vanish." They had no other option but to face the consequences of their actions, knowing full well they might never walk free again. The world was forever changed when the full documents were released. Jerry and Rachel's names became symbols of defiance against a system bent on controlling the truth. They had risked everything to expose the conspiracy. "We did it," Jerry said, his voice hoarse from the days of hiding. Rachel smiled faintly, but there was no joy in it. "We've changed the world, Jerry. But at what cost?" As they walked away from the chaos they had created, the uncertainty of their future loomed. They had won the fight for truth, but the price of victory was still unclear.